Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Ultra Everything. I'm Thomas Mestis, your host, and today's show we are super excited. I've got a good friend of mine, world-renowned or soon-to-be world-renowned owner of a company called Crescent Retreats, is doing some big things all over the country, and I'm super excited to have him as our guest today, coming to us live from Detroit. Is that, I think, where we're at? So
That is where I'm at. Yep.
All right, cool. Fouad Bazzi is our guest today. So what's up, man? Welcome.
So awesome to be here, man. You're one of my favorite people. You bring so much energy every time we're in a room together. And I absolutely love our time together, and I'm excited to share whatever value I can to your following.
Oh, absolutely, man. And you know what? Like, our goal is to educate, inspire, and motivate, right? And that's just what it is. It's just so much fun just to talk to friends that are doing big things. It's so funny because when I get around you and everybody else that we come in contact with, it's like I want to play at a higher level. It's like I just want to take it up that notch, and it's so cool just being in this position to be able to sit and talk with you and find out what you're doing. Just motivates and inspires me to start thinking differently, and by thinking differently, putting action to do differently. So super excited. So yeah, let's get into it, man.
Let's go.
Awesome. All right. Well, with that said, they always give me cue cards, and I'm like the worst person. So here we are, another segment of Ultra Everything. I can never follow anything. So Yasmin, I know you put so much work into this, but I don't know if I'm going to do a good job. So, all right. Well, tell me, like, where did you come from? Where did you start? What's going on? How did you get to where you are today? Give me a little bit of background about who you are.
All right. So, 21-year corporate banker, finance grad, MBA, all that other fun stuff. And, banking was amazing to me. But when we had our third kid, I realized I was doing a lot of traveling. I had responsibilities in Michigan, Texas, and California, and and it was amazing. I had an amazing job. I spent 80% of my time probably with the C-suite of community banks, on golf courses, and in baseball and basketball stadiums, and all that other fun stuff. But what I realized is, for my growth, when you're in corporate, you have a ceiling, you have a maximum potential, or at least a very slow and contained growth, right? And I knew I knew I wanted to shoot higher. My wife was doing great, attorney, has her own law firm, all that, and she was an entrepreneur more than she was an attorney. And when her firm really started to take off and we had our third kid, I realized I could now be the kind of the variable one, where historically I had been the stable income. Now I could be the variable one. And so I left corporate in 2019, started a business. That business took a left turn during COVID. And I started doing some long-term rentals at the same time. I knew I wasn't a good landlord. I was the guy letting people stay way too long, even if they couldn't afford it. And so I was running basically a nonprofit organization where I was donating all the money and nothing was returning. So and at the same time, we found out that we needed a house in California for a few years that we were going to have to use every 6 weeks for some personal reasons. So we bought a house in Huntington Beach.
Oh, wow.
Got it, learned all about Airbnb really, really quickly. Got into some masterminds, learned everything I could about real estate. So we went from 0 to 3. We got that one under contract. We got one in Scottsdale, one in Phoenix under contract, all at the same time. Launched 3 simultaneously, and here we are. We're launching number 8 this week. That was 20 months ago we started. We're launching number 8 now. The last 2, this one coming up and the one before it, were in Kissimmee, Florida, 3 miles from the parks. And so that's where we are. We raise capital. We partner with with passive income investors, and our growth is going to lead to other territories where we're not currently. So that's it.
Dude, you do big deals too. So it's like when somebody says, "Oh, I do Airbnb," it's like you do Airbnb on steroids, because like the house that you're about to go live on, like this is a huge property. This is a big, expensive, beautiful property. It's not like a typical, like, hey, I just converted my back room guest house into an Airbnb. Like, tell me about like what you're doing, because Crescent Retreats is a high-end Airbnb, if you want to use the term Airbnb, but short-term rental. It's going to be
Short-term rentals.
for it's yeah.
I'll tell you my philosophy. My philosophy is this. We use STR and Airbnb and all that other stuff as our method of revenue, right? But at its core, we're still real estate investors. I mean, we're not any different than any other real estate investors, whether it's multifamily, flipping, wholesaling, whatever it might be. Our path is just single family real estate investments, and we use short-term rental to scale the portfolio. And so very, what I always say is rather than going and following Airbnb or short-term rental data, I'm following real estate fundamental data. So where is their population growth? Where do we have business infrastructure growth? Where do we have startup money being invested? Where do we have things that are going on that show and are directly correlated to long-term appreciation higher than the average across America? And I know that's kind of taboo. A lot of people don't like to really talk about appreciation and equity. Most influencers like to talk about the cash flow and deals, and that's not wrong.
Yeah.
But I also know that behind the scenes, all of them are basing this. Nobody's chasing deals where there's no equity projected, or there's slower population growth, right? I mean, it's just these are common factors that show to growing markets and growth in equity. And so we like those kind of markets. And once we find those markets, then we say, how does the Airbnb data look for that market? So Airbnb data or short-term rental data is second to us in our research. So that's why I like Scottsdale and Phoenix. So yes, we have some dips like any market, but we've got a lot of growth. We've got a lot of reasons to show that there's going to be steady appreciation for a long time.
Yeah.
It's why we like San Diego. It's why we like, these kinds of places.
You got all the cool places that we all want to go, right?
Yeah, exactly. And there's still great real estate markets, and they're great vacation markets too, right? So you referenced the property in that we're launching now, and it being bigger than its standard. But what it is, it's really cool. These two that we launched in Kissimmee. So the first one was a 12-bedroom, 12-bath. It's been live for about a month and a half now, and it's got the largest property in the neighborhood. We basically have a second lot that's not buildable, but it's a huge lot on the side of the house, and we got a pool at that home too. Well, we got lucky. There's a house on the other side of that lot right next door that has 9-bedroom, 9-bath that came up for sale. So we bought that one. So now between those two combined, next door to each other, we'll have 21 bedrooms, 21 bathrooms.
Oh, wow.
Each one has its own pool. And because that land is in the middle, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of make that a community space. So if there are two different bookings, then it's going to be so much fun that both parties will be able to use that. It'll almost be like a little park for our two properties. But then if we get one huge booking, like a corporate retreat or a mastermind or a wedding or whatever it might be, they'll be staying in the two separate homes. We'll be able to collaborate by using that common space as well.
No, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. It's so funny because, I do short-term rentals, Airbnbs, but I stay in my marketplace. So where I couldn't even fathom, and this is where now I start thinking bigger, and that's kind of the whole mindset of ultra everything. Like you going across the country to go visit your Airbnb. Like I'm going, like I got to go check out on this property like this afternoon. I'm going to just drive over there like after lunch. It'll be like, down the street. It's like you have to like really think differently than most people do, because it's not like let me just run down there real quick. Let's make sure that these systems and everything are in place. So there's a whole mindset. So when people think Airbnb, and it's kind of funny when you start in Airbnbs, you start looking and you get part of these groups on Facebook and stuff, and you look at the problems that some of them are posed, the questions that they have, and they're legitimate questions and they're legitimate problems, but the mindset is just completely different. Like, hey, how do I do this little thing? And you're like, well, that's so funny because I thought about that like 10 years ago, right? Like that was one of the first steps in the process. Today, for you to be able to streamline the process, to be able to grow, and I don't know how many units you plan on growing, but I know you've got some big goals and what you're planning on doing, not just in the United States, but worldwide, I believe.
Yep.
But like those problems are just so funny to listen to now or to see, and I don't want to discount that somebody has a problem with their business because everyone has to start somewhere, but you're thinking on the grand scale, so you're thinking really, really big when you're designing these and planning these and coordinating these. And it's been really awesome to watch and follow you on Instagram to see all the stuff that you're doing, because it really makes me, I'm going to say, it makes me scared. I have fear.
Well, I
I want
love
to grow
that.
too, but I'm like scared, man.
I'll tell you what, I love that. But the reality is there's no, both of the approaches are right. You know what I mean? It's not like one is greater than the other. You know, I also look at your process and I look at and I say you're creating all the value in your property by buying, by flipping, by burning and doing all of those things, right?
Hmm.
Whereas we're not doing that. Somebody else is capitalizing on the value of the appreciation before we buy it. We're buying it at a premium and then and then banking on the appreciation of the market. So that is something that I plan on now integrating into our business this year, is buying some properties where we can add some value as well. But yeah, I mean technology has made it as such that in 2023 it's not like 2005 anymore, where you had to buy in your backyard and that it was really, kind of unthought of or unheard of or more difficult for the rookie, because I'm still 20 months old. I still kind of consider myself a rookie, but it's much easier for me now to take my experience, having been a traveled banker where I used to travel all over for my clients, and understand how technology can allow us to work across multiple markets and apply that here. So that has been my approach. The other thing is my plan is to grow that 80% of our bookings are coming direct from our clientele. I mean, I want to have a subscription-based model one day, potentially. Not I mean, I'd like to. It's part of the strategy. Will I get there? I'm not sure where the market will end up taking me long term, but it is one of those kind of parking lot ideas where we might develop that. And in order to have that, in order for it to be enticing, you can't just be in one market and expect everybody to want to come to that same market over and over and over and over, right? If you have multiple markets that are really, really desirable, for multiple uses. One might be for family, one might be for, romantic getaways, just husband and wife need to get away for a 10-year anniversary, whatever it might be. You need these multitude of options and to drive that attractiveness for somebody to want to subscribe to either multiple visits with you or a subscription-based model or whatever it might be.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So how would you, as obviously 20 months in, but in 20 months, I'm going to say that you're not, it's not an average 20 months, man. Like your months are probably 2 years for most people, right? The knowledge and the things that you do in a month is what most people would accomplish in a longer period of time. So as a brand new person getting into the business or wanting to get into the business, who's listening today and say, hey, I want to do what Fouad's doing. I want to start an Airbnb business. Like, what would you say would be step one for any of these people that want to start something?
I'll tell you what, man. It'd be easy to just sit here and pound on my chest, but the reality is, I stand on the shoulders of giants ahead of me. And what I did is I had an idea, I drew out my idea, I researched my idea, but then I spent a lot of money to join masterminds and get in the room with people that are already doing what I wanted to do at a much bigger level, and learn from that and say, does this affirm my strategy? Can my strategy exist and work and all of those things? And so I didn't get lucky to network with the people I've been networking with that I've been learning from. I had to write a check to get into those rooms, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of people would say, that's crazy. Why would you write $20,000 check to be in that room for 12 months or a $50,000 check to be in that room for 12 months? Well, in both of those rooms, I've established enduring and long-term relationships. I've learned from people that have been doing this for 20 plus years, and I've raised over $1 million in those rooms. So when you look at the ROI, ROI is there. It's already paid itself back 10 times. When you look at the knowledge has, you would pay that much money for a master's degree. So why wouldn't you pay it for a PhD in real estate too, right? So,
absolutely.
That's just the long and short of it. If you've got any stigma or any hesitation about paying to be in a room, specifically masterminds, and be very specific about your masterminds too. Like, there are a lot of masterminds out there that are not for you. And you have to understand, you have to do your homework, get some, go to some trial events, negotiate that in before you sign up for something. But yeah, I can tell you for my money, where I met you is in the boardroom mastermind with Kent Clothier. I challenge anybody to show me a better one in the country.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Elevate and you raise your standards, right? And you start working at that. So, so tell me a little bit about where you came from. And this is a huge thing for me, because when I grew up Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I was looking back recently about some of the fundamental times in my life that actually changed and kind of molded me who I am. I look back to my 12-year-old self, like looking at like just seeing that there was something else other than what I was accustomed to, right? And I think that's where we have to, and what masterminds do is it really takes you out of your situation, your room, and really puts you in another room to elevate. And it's so funny because the first time I went to the boardroom mastermind, I remember I walk in a room here and I know everybody and I'm friends with everybody. I remember walking into that for the first time, and although everyone was friendly, I just felt small. Like I was like, I do not belong here. Like these guys are just doing these amazing things and I just don't belong. But ultimately, you start building these relationships with people and you start saying, hey, I do have some value, or hey, I can give some advice here. And then all of a sudden you start thinking, you're like, wow, like you're using that to elevate you to that next level. So that's been one of the greatest things that I've seen through the masterminds. And as you being a young person, I don't know anything about your childhood, but although I was instilled with work ethic and my parents were amazing and all these other things, but we didn't come from a lot, you know, and to think that little kid, you know, there's times that, and if I talk to you about my goals, like I want our company within the next 8 years to be worth $1 billion with a B, right? And how do we do that? How does a little scared 12-year-old kid think that he's going to grow a company to $1 billion valuation in the next 8 years? So where do you come from? Like what is your background where you think, hey, did you have to overcome that personally to be able to start thinking the way that you do? Or tell me a little bit about that.
I'll tell you, man. So, you know, I grew up common standard household. You know, my mom part-time worked. My dad was an engineer at GM, and you know, and you know, he had a very decent career, right? And that led me kind of follow in his footsteps, take on a corporate job where, again, I was doing good. Was I doing great? Was I ever going to become crazy rich, or and not just rich in just the number of dollars that you're making, but rich in the sense that I could do what I wanted when I wanted. I got 3 kids now. I coach my kids' basketball team. I pick them up from school every day. Was a corporate life going to lead me to a life that I wanted to live, a very independent style life? And it wasn't. And my dad, because he was an engineer, you know, his job globally for GM was to find all the problems and avoid risk. And that's kind of, you know, the roof that I grew up under, which was amazing because it taught me so much.
Sure.
But also at my core, I'm a risk taker. Like, so, you know, there was almost this like internal battle. And so in 2017, I was up for a pretty big promotion and a job that I really, really wanted. And I got, I was second in the running. And by the way, great friends with the person that got that job very deservedly. But I also know that I could have done that job very well also. And there was a qualification that I didn't have that held me back from being the number one in line for that job. And so it just really opened my eyes to, this was 2017, 2 years before I actually took the stance to go on my own. But it really woke me up that, you know, how am I not in control of my own destiny? Why am I not doing what I want to do? Why am I not making those choices? Why am I being told what to do? I'm a 30-something-year-old man. I should kind of be able to do what I want to do at this point, right? And so I knew that I needed to take those next 2 years to set myself up to get independent and go do my own thing. And knowing that I would fail over and over, probably, you know, not so much fail, but knowing that plans wouldn't go according to what I envisioned, those things would be lessons and learnings, and then I would get right back up and I would go. And so here we are. My coffee shop / kid play place closed because of COVID. My long-term rentals, I wasn't good at it. I learned, and I'm not so egotistical that I have to tell you I can be good at everything. Believe me, if I'm not good at something, I don't want to spend a minute doing it. I don't even want to force it. Can I study enough or work hard enough to become good at it? Yeah. But if it's going to take me 100% of my energy to be good at something, whereas I could be really good at something at 25% of my energy, guess what? I'm going to do the 25% one so that I can take those other 75% and pour them into my kids, into my family, into other things and side jobs and, whatever it might be. But I just needed control of myself, man. I mean, that's where I came from. And so, I came on the roots of being very risk averse, but that's not who I was. So I took those lessons, I implemented what I needed out of them. And now I'm letting the risky Fouad kind of come out and play a little.
So are you considered the crazy one in the family?
Yeah, no doubt.
So absolutely. So what's funny is to this day, my mother was like, my mother would always be like, oh, poor Thomas, we're struggling, the market changes, whatever. I've been doing this for 20 years and we've gone through ups and downs. And I remember her telling me, oh, my poor son, my poor Thomas. And I was like, don't feel sorry for me. I'm the one that put myself in these situations, and I'm the one that's going to get me out of these situations. So it's a completely different philosophy. And it's exactly right, is like you grew up in that engineering mindset where they play it really safe, right? Everything has to be analyzed and checked out. And I really came from that space too. My brother's a mechanical engineer. My parents played it safe. They didn't take a lot of risk. And I hear stories from my father, like he'll be driving down the road and he's like, oh, I wish I would have bought that property. Or remember when we were going to buy that, but I didn't have the money to do it. And I told myself that at that point, I'm never going to be the person that says, oh, I wish I would have done this, or I wish I would have tried this. I'm going to like be that person, hey, I tried this, I worked my ass off, I lost my ass, it didn't work, and I'm going to go try something else. And I'm going to go try something else, and I'm going to go try something else, and I'm going to work it. And that's the person that I've tried to become. And what's funny about that is, in just the last few years, I learned more about myself because I started attempting these really big physical things. And the physicality, the correlation between physical challenges and business, oh my God, it's insane how closely related they are to each other. Because at the end of the day, when the lights are out, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, it's you against your mind, No doubt. And I think that's one of the greatest things. So one of the greatest lessons that I've learned in order to be successful in business is push, challenge, just pure grit and going after it. So that's really what I appreciate about business in itself. So don't play it safe. You got to go after it, man. You got one life. You're going to live every single day, but it's like how you live.
Everything you achieve in life stays here. We're all, not sure if you're aware of this or not, but we're all going to die.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And, I've never heard anybody say, you hear the stories about people that always wish they would have done that one more, done that one thing. I wish I would have tried this thing. I always wanted to try this thing, but I didn't, right? But nobody ever really looks back. I mean, unless it was something crazy, ridiculous, like rob a bank or whatever, but nobody looks back and says, I wish I wouldn't have tried that one thing.
Sure.
Because you learn and you grow, and it shapes where you're going, right? Even right now, I'm 20 months in, and knock on wood, we're doing amazing for 20 months starting this. But I can't tell you we're a finished product. We're evolving. We're getting better every single day. I was just talking to you the other day. We had a long conversation, right, about some of the things where I'm struggling for efficiency, and I've got the revenue in the door. Now I got to get some of the expenses down now that the revenue is there. So it's time to lean up a pig. You can't lean up a skinny pig, but now that the pig is a little fat, it's time to lean it up. That's where I'm at in my journey. And so I got things to improve, but I wouldn't have things to improve if I didn't start trying somewhere. So
absolutely, man. You got to definitely go for it. And that's the big thing is like, I don't want to have that pain of regret, because I see it. I have seen it in so many times. I was very fortunate. My grandmother lived to 98, and I remember having conversations with her. She was born in 1908. Like the crazy stories that you'd hear. But she would always tell me, oh, I wish I would have been able to do this, or I wish I would have been able to do this. I'm like, why don't you do it now? She's like, oh, no, I'm too old now. And it's like, man, I love my grandmother, and I wish that I would have been in a different position to be able to take her to do these things. But I'm going to tell you one thing, like I'm not going to be that person. I'm going to do everything I possibly can to say that I tried.
No doubt.
And play all out, full out every single day, go after it. So where do you see yourself? Where does Crescent Retreats going to be in 10 years? What kind of scale are you trying to grow to? What are you trying to accomplish each year? What's the 5-10 year plan?
So my goal is a $50 million real estate portfolio.
Okay.
It's pretty simple, and I don't want, I'm not chasing 1,000 doors. That sounds miserable to me. 1,000 water heaters, 1,000 air conditioners, 1,000. I mean, like, no, thank you, right? Like, that sounds miserable to me. I like the homes in the $1 to $1.5 million range, and so scaling that, you end up anywhere between 30 and 50 homes. I'd like to throw in a boutique hotel or two that are very experiential in nature, and we're actually kind of beginning that search as we speak. But a $50 million real estate portfolio to me is something that I truly value. I think that's big enough that is sellable as a portfolio. But and especially if you can vertically integrate, and you and I have had this conversation over and over, whether it's the property management, the laundry, the cleaning, the whatever it might be. And if not, then you just have a $50 million real estate portfolio that you get to operate and pass along to your kids, right? And so that's kind of the goal. I'll probably think about diversification in assets over the next couple of years, potentially adding a couple of car washes, a couple of, real nice just heavy cash flow / tax advantage kind of assets. But, at its core, I love the McDonald's model. Any asset you can buy that cash flows itself, I love that model.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because I learn more from failure and pain than anything else. So I'll give you an example. Last night, I get a phone call. So I have two of our team members are on vacation. One has been gone for a while. She comes back on Monday. The other one left yesterday. I get a phone call. So now Tom's back on call. I get a phone call. It's 11:30 last night. Hey, we're staying at such and such property, and we locked ourselves out. I was like, oh, no problem. We have a backup plan, because 8 years ago, I was always getting those phone calls, and I was showing up, and I would have to unlock the property, and so I learned from that pain. So we have the backup plan. We have an extra lockbox hidden at this point. Just go back here. Here's the code. You should have keys, no problem. Okay, I can't find the lockbox. Okay. So then I have somebody else from our team call them, tell them where the lockbox is. Okay, we found the lockbox. There's no keys in the lockbox. Okay. All right. Well, I'll run to the office. We have a lockbox at the office with all the keys nicely organized, well-detailed description of the keys. Everything's perfect, right? Okay, cool. It's just inconvenient. I'll go let you in. I get the key. I show up at the house. Not one of those keys opens any of those doors. So now it's midnight. And this poor lady, she's standing outside. She made a mistake. She locked the door. But my mistake was that we didn't have a backup to the backup to the backup plan. So we get there, and finally I was able to get her in. But I have this wonderful sledgehammer in my car. So this morning, we got her in, broke the window. I'll be posting this video of me breaking in, because I actually gave her my phone. I said, here, you might want to video this. So we're breaking into the house. So bust out the window, get her in, clean it up. But it's like, you can't just leave it there. You have to say, okay, well, how can we do this to prevent this from happening in the future across all our properties? And every time that we have a problem, it doesn't matter if one of our service vehicles has a blowout or whatever it is. It's like, let's figure out a solution, because as we're thinking, we're not going to just have one service vehicle. We're now going to get to the point where I want the company to be, we're going to have a fleet of 1,000 vehicles. We're going to have X amount of properties all across the country. How can we prevent this from ever happening again, from this late night, inconvenience that I had? How can I learn from this, and how can we set a policy in place that this never happens again? And so that's what I like to learn, is the pain of doing teaches you so much more than the success, because you could talk about your successes all day long, but it's truly the failure that actually gives you the lessons that you need in order to be successful. So,
no doubt.
So yeah, I got to break in, so you'll be able to see that a little bit later, me breaking into a house with a sledgehammer.
That's awesome. I can't wait.
So tell me about some of the pains that you've gone through in the last 20 months that has got you here. Like, do you have anything that sticks out in your mind, like, man, I never want to do that again, that you could actually teach somebody that's listening today?
Yeah, I mean, I can think of a few. I mean, I would tell you the most important things that you want to do are you got to circle with your neighbors. And so you got to know that you're buying in a neighborhood where you're generally accepted as a short-term rental.
Oh yeah.
That is something that long-term can really drive a lot of harm
Yeah.
to your business, right?
Yeah.
And so that's something that we're constantly managing now because we're in a couple of neighborhoods that, you know, I wouldn't say we have great pain there, but we do have constant, management of that situation. So, it doesn't have to be the end of the world, but definitely something you want at the forefront. Um, you know, I guess if I had to reach deep down, I would tell you because now we're starting to shift. Now I'm shifting my philosophy to say I want to buy some properties where we can add value and generate some faster return on our equity.
Okay.
Um, we bought a lot of turnkey, which by the way has turned out okay because we've appreciated really, really well. And we're actually about to make a few exits where we're going to capitalize on that equity and then redeploy that money. But redeploying, again, we're going to redeploy it into properties where we can add value, get some of that equity back and start to play that game where we can move our money with more velocity. And that is the one thing that I would probably do better from the beginning is create a better plan for the velocity of our return.
Okay. Okay. Cool. I did like one day you were telling me that you were looking at a property, and you went and talked to the neighbors and said, "Hey, this is what my plan is," and it didn't go the conversation didn't go the way that you liked, and right there you make the decision. All right, we're not going to buy this property because
Yeah, so I'll tell the story about Don. I mean, Don, I won't give his last name. Just call him Don. It's his real name.
All right, let's hear
So
it.
this was the first house we bought in Scottsdale. So very new. We went from 0 to 3 properties. I told you that story, right? I didn't go from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3. I went from 0 to 3. So I hadn't any learning lessons, but we launched this property. And this property is our most popular property now. It's always booked. It generates really, really well. And it's on a street that's, these homes are probably built in the 60s, 70s. But this one builder, the guy who actually lived on the block, he bird 7 of these properties on the street. And, all the rest of them are still from the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
And the ones that he bird, he bought them all at about 600,000 and he sold them all from anywhere from 1.1 million to 2.2 million. So he generated a great domino effect of appreciation in the neighborhood.
Okay.
And then he left and moved to Paradise Valley, which is the nicest neighborhood in
Sure.
the Scottsdale Phoenix market. And he's now living in this huge mansion because of these like 7 flips. And I bought one of them. I bought it at 1.3 million, and the guy right across the street from me, Don, is an old man, not old. I mean, probably younger 60s, mid 60s, lives by himself. Comes outside to smoke a cigarette, goes back in his house, and that's all you see of Don. And he's great, great individual, but I think he's lonely. I think he's bored. And so when I first met him, and I told him, our plan, we just closed on it. We're designing it, and it's going to be an Airbnb. And he said, well, that's a problem. I said, well, why is that a problem? He said, well, all these things, he just ran down all the stigmas that come along with short-term rentals. So, and one of the first stigmas he gave me was, what about the partiers that are late at night on a Friday night and drinking and loud? I said, well, let me ask you this. If I put a tenant in there for 12 months that's drinking and loud every Friday night, is that better? Or is it better that if I have a bad occasional guest, they're gone after 3 days?
Yeah.
And he said, well, I never really thought of it that way. I said, well, there you go. I'm glad to help. Right.
That's a good point. That's a good point, though. Yeah.
And so we went down all his whole list, and I told him, I said, look, we're luxury. I do a lot of due diligence on my guests. We are above average price, in the market at all of our homes on purpose, because I don't want riffraff. I mean, we want people that are respectful to assets. I mean, these are assets. I'd rather break even for a month than say I was positive 2,000 on the rental revenue, but I had to fix $2,000 with a broken, whatever.
Sure.
Right. So we are very selective about who we host in our place too. We have a 15-page rental agreement, all these things, and I'm walking through this process. And so, does it mean we're perfect? By any means, no. But I'll tell you, I can count on one hand. I mean, I think right off the top of my head, we've had 3 really bad guests. And when I say bad, messy, really messy guests. The rest of them have all been really respectful, and I take them all back in a heartbeat. So, it's been really good. But I remember one time, finally like 6 months into the story, into our launch, Don said, Don, I'm visiting and I'm checking on the property, and I see Don and we're talking, and he's complaining to me about our garbage and how it's constantly overfilled and blah, blah, blah. I said, well, let me, how about I just order a second garbage bin? I said, glad you told me. Thank you, And I pay a company called Can Monkey $50 a month per property. They come out, they take our garbage to the curb on garbage day, and then they come back at night and they put the garbage cans back on the side of the house. So I asked him, I said, he was complaining about our garbage, how sometimes it overfills, and sometimes the recycling ends up in the garbage. God bless him for having so much time for watching my garbage cans. I said to him, I said, well, I'll tell you what. I said, you obviously care so much about my garbage process, right? Well, how about we do this? How about I fire Can Monkey for this property? I pay them $50 a month. I'm going to pay you $55 a month, and you do my garbage for me. And you would do that? Like, yeah, I would do that. Sure, I would do that. Would you do that for me? He's like, yeah, I would do that, right? So now I pay my neighbor, who went from my biggest critic to now my biggest advocate, because I put him on my team.
Yeah.
And I empowered him, right? But to answer your question, I know that was kind of a tangent. To answer your question, what I learned from this relationship was, now moving forward, when I'm still when I get a property under contract and I'm in my due diligence period, yeah, I knock on the neighbor of every, I knock on every neighboring house, and I say, hey, my name is Fouad. Here's what we do. We're luxury Airbnb, blah, 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 blah. And here's what we're going to do next door. Is this going to be an issue for you? And if so, let's talk about that and see if we can kind of come to a common ground. So there was one where I knew there was a neighbor that it was just going to be a miserable relationship. So I did. I was in my due diligence period. I backed out of the contract and I moved on.
Yeah. No, that's important, man. You got to cut your losses before that becomes more of a problem, right? You're like, I love this property, but no. So it's kind of funny because, man, I got story after story because we like most got into Airbnb because I had long-term rentals, and I was sick of the tenants that I was getting in long-term rentals because I wasn't doing the proper screening or whatever else it was. So they were problem properties. But this one, since we've gone through Airbnb, I got some great stories. But what is we actually had we had a SWAT team out for one of our Airbnb guests.
Oh boy.
So my neighbor calls me, hey Tom, we have a problem. There's the SWAT teams at your house. And I was like, okay. So I come down and they're literally out. They blocked off the area. SWAT's there. They're negotiating with them. And I pull up to the cop, the police officer that's doing the negotiation. He's the negotiator. And he's like, this is your property? And I said, yeah. And he asked us some questions, and he's going back and forth, and he's kind of frustrated. And he's talking to the guy, and I like to make jokes. Like I make jokes a lot. So in most situations, I diffuse the situation by cracking a joke. And so I'm talking to the police officer, and I said, hey, I know he's not coming out, but let him know if he doesn't come out, he's not going to get a 5-star review. So long story short, the cop just looks at me. He's like, what? So long story short, the night goes on. I'm like, hey, I can't do anything here. You guys got your job. Like, I didn't stay there. I was like, I got other things to do. I was like, you guys are doing your thing. At this point, there's not much I can do other than sit here. So I took off, went to another appointment, did the thing, come back. It's about 1 o'clock. It's about 1 o'clock in the morning now. They got him out. They had the robot. They ripped our door down. They ripped our fence down. They did all these things. And we're walking through, and I'm walking with the police officers, and they're like, how can you be happy? Like, I'm just laughing, and I'm just kind of like cracking up about the thing. And I wasn't pissed. I wasn't angry, nothing. Like, and they're like, how is this possible? And I was like, because I am learning, this kind of thing is going to happen a million times on my process and on my journey of what I'm trying to accomplish. So if I can't deal with this now, then I'm never going to get to where I want to be. So yes. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's just a process. It's like, check the box, get the thing fixed, go through the process, clean it up, submit to the insurance company, do all the things that we got to do, and just move on, fix the property, re-rent the property, go on to the next property, and then learn from our mistakes and make a better screening a guest. In this case, this actually guest was screened well, but they had actually stolen somebody's identity and used it, so it wasn't the person that was actually the identity of the person. So It's crazy stories, man. But the point is, is through life, you're going to run into so many different problems. You're going to run into so many different challenges. And if you can't overcome those challenges or those processes, like you're never going to become the person you want to become. You're never going to become that person. So you have to like really visualize who am I? Who do I want to become? How do I want to get there? And is this thing a speed bump or is it a mountain that I can't overcome? And most of the time, things are going to be little speed bumps. So
that's a great mindset, man. I love that.
So you just spent a little bit of time up in the great north with one of our friends.
I did.
Tell me about that, man. Tell me about the what you did up in Canada.
Well, it was awesome. So I got to Brady McDonald, who is
He was just one of our guests.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
And he's a really amazing human being. He's very inspiring, and man, and I know you learned this about him in the Bahamas when he made you run way more miles than you were prepared to do.
That I wanted to do. Yes.
Yeah, and he is somebody, well, he started a mastermind and he called it 0 to 100. And there's there's probably not a better name than Brady McDonald could have thought of to describe his community, because that's who he is, right? So I got to go up there. I got to spend a lot of quality time with him and his wife, his awesome wife, just lovely person.
Yep, Christy's awesome, man.
And what a community that he's curated. So I got to spend some time speaking to his community about short-term rentals and kind of giving them all the lowdowns and get really tactical with some of the strategies that we deploy to maximize our occupancy and our average daily rate. Some of our, how do we find a property, select a market, how do we, due diligence on our guests, all that other stuff. But got to really meet a lot of people. And I'm, again, I'm addicted to masterminds now. So whether it's I'm just attending as an attendee or if I get to go and speak at them, I love them. I even if I'm speaking at them, I still typically learn more than I get to give at those things. So it was great to be up there with them.
So you were his guest. Did he make you go running with him?
We met at the gym. He ran. I walked on the treadmill uphill for a little while. Then I lifted some weights, but that dude just runs, man. He's like Forrest Gump.
He's pretty awesome, man. That's pretty cool. So tell me about the push-ups, though. He made you do push-ups?
We got some push-ups in.
Yeah.
I was speaking right after lunch on their first day of their mastermind, and so I think to kind of keep everybody engaged and not fall into the lunch hangover, he and I kind of got up, and it was actually Christy's idea, his wife, and she basically said, well, why don't you guys just, to make sure everybody's awake for this, why don't you guys make everybody do what you guys do at the boardroom every time you see each other and do some push-ups? We had a room full of real estate investors doing push-ups. Yeah. So
what's so funny about that, man, is we're at the boardroom and there's some beasts out there, but it's like, it's so funny because you're like, Tom, you got your coffee? You ready for push-ups? I'm like, here and now. Yeah, here and now. I'm like, oh my God, like right in the middle of the freaking ballroom, like you're making me do push-ups.
We did it. We did it in the lobby of the hotel in the Bahamas.
In the Bahamas, in the casino.
You said something there. You said there's a lot of beasts in that room, and there are. And what's important, I think, what you learn real fast, what humbles you really quickly, and what you have to be able to do in these masterminds to make them effective and be able to grow yourself, is you have to realize that you're not there to compare yourself to everybody else in that room. Mm-hmm. You're there to compare yourself to you the last time you were in that room.
Yeah.
And that's one of my favorite things about these rooms is you go in there and you get up on, Kent Clear has us go up on these hot seats every quarter for 30 minutes and talking about where we are, what we've done since the last, quarterly mastermind and what our challenges are so that we know where we need to get better at.
Sure.
The challenge really is if I show back up in 90 days with the same challenges that I had last time, you're going to get, there's a lot of smarter people in that room than me. And I'm going to get booed off that stage. And that's motivating. That is motivating. That pushes me. So I'm always careful to make sure that I'm not there to compare myself again. I'm one of the smallest fish in that room. And I'm very careful to make sure that it's me that I'm up against and nobody else in that room.
Yeah, no, I like to elevate, push myself to the umpteenth degree, and I laugh because I always like, it's kind of like a badge of honor when they're like the word crazy and then Thomas, crazy Fouad, crazy Brady, crazy whatever, fill in the blank. It's like if people aren't looking at you like you're crazy, you're in the wrong room because now you're just status quo. Like it's just like they're unimpressed. Like it's so funny now when I could go to you and I'm like, hey, this is my challenge. Or I go to Brady and say, hey, the challenge is I want to go. I could throw something out there. I want to go run 15 miles every day for the next 30 days. And to my normal circle, they'd be like, you're crazy. Different circle, they're like, okay, cool. Well, you just have to get up a little bit earlier and you just have to have the right mindset. And yeah, that's no problem. But I can see you accomplishing that. It's not like you're not considered crazy at that point. And it's very strange to be amongst those types of people, right? Amongst the uncommon thinkers, if you will. So definitely appreciate it.
It's your shirt, right? Look at your shirt. That's the shirt that we get in there, and it's simple. It's F average, be legendary, right? That's what that stands for. And it makes so much sense. I'm a college football junkie. I'm a huge Ohio State fan. And Urban Meyer was our head coach for a long time. And I still remember the clip of him in practice yelling at everybody, nobody wants to be around average. Why be around average?
Yeah.
And he was basically telling the players, if you're average, you're sitting your ass on the bench and you're not going to get the playing time.
Yeah.
And it's no different in life. Sports is very, transferable to life. And you can't, if you run around being average, you're only letting yourself down.
Well, it's kind of funny because, you point out the shirt, and to me, there's a lot of meaning with a lot of different things that I wear, and there are meanings to me, not to most people, obviously. But I have my favorite shirt is one of the shirts that I did an ultra marathon that I probably could have died or should have died during, but I ended up not. They found me. I finished the race. I wear that shirt. Super proud shirt of that. But then I was wearing recently. I wore a shirt that was a Moab 240. I had attempted a race. It was a Moab 240-mile ultra marathon through Moab, Utah, single loop track, 60,000 feet of elevation change, and I, for the longest time, did not wear that shirt. This was in October of 2020. I attempted it. I made it to mile 73. I dropped out at mile 73. I didn't finish the race, and so I had the shirt. And I kept it in the drawer and I never wore it because to me it was like this was a failure. Recently, within the last couple weeks, I came across the shirt again and I was like, I'm going to wear this shirt because this means something to me. This shirt means that I attempted and I only truly fail if I don't actually go back after it. So one of the big things that I'm focused on now is like, all right, let me set the date so I can go and attempt the Moab 240 again. So I've actually worn this shirt a couple times, and people ask me about the shirt, and I said, "Oh, this shirt is this means I did not finish this race, but now it's reminding me, and it's every single day that I go for these runs or doing different things. I'm like, this is the big goal. Like, who do I need to become, or what do I have to do in order to accomplish this goal? Because I have to become that person in order to get past that. Because I've gotten to the mile 73, but I got to better train. I got to make sure that I'm hydrating properly. I want to make sure that my business is right because the night before the race, my wife literally had to tell me, Thomas, tomorrow morning, you need to go to bed because tomorrow morning in like less than 6 hours, you have to run 240 miles. And I'm still working on my laptop. So I literally had to shut my laptop down, which means I wasn't in the right mental space in order to accomplish that goal. Like I thought that I didn't give it the justice and the power and the time that it deserved to be successful at it. So my wife actually was one of the most, I guess, how do I say this? She told me the next day, I was like, oh, man, I can't believe. She's like, you didn't deserve to win. I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad you failed because you didn't deserve it. She told me, and I was like, and she was 100% right because the guy that was trying this race was working on his laptop 6 hours before he had to go run 240 miles. I was not set up to that, right? I was not set up. So she told me she was glad that I failed. She was a little harsh, but I still love her anyway. So she speaks the truth.
Well, it's funny because it's funny, man. Look, I'm wearing a shirt that the first word on it is health, right?
Absolutely. Tell us about that shirt real quick.
Well, health, peace, love, and travel. It's the core values, and it's my core values. It's Crescent Retreats' core values, and that's why you got the Crescent Retreats at the bottom. But
there you go. Awesome, man.
It's the reason it's the core values of the company is because these are my core values. And you know, when I first launched this brand, it was, you know, hey, look, we're a hospitality company. That's what we're gonna do. So our core values were like, what were they? They were experience, luxury, privacy, you know, just the things that, you know, you expect out of a luxury hospitality brand, and you can be those things without them just being your default core values. They were just so like cliche.
Sure.
But what I also learned was that my personal core values, well, what I knew was this is how I live my life. Health, peace, love, and travel is how I live my life, right? Health is, you know, commit to yourself. The way you commit to your job, the way you commit to your laptop 6 hours before you're trying to run a damn race, right? The way you're committing to everything else in your life. If you don't commit to your health first, you're screwed. You have no choice. You have no chance. Like, because you're going to be in bad health. You're going to have no energy. You're not going to want to try things. You're going to make all these excuses. It spirals. It's like bad physical health means bad mental health. Bad mental health means bad mindset. Bad mindset means loser approach and all these things.
Sure.
When you lead with health, it's really easy to be at peace. I'm not talking about world peace from war. I'm talking about peace with yourself, right? Like when you're at peace with yourself, you know that because 2 years ago, I was the guy that was flipping people off for cutting me off on the highway. Now it happens, and I'm not even thinking. I don't even realize that he cut me off.
I can't even envision that knowing you today.
Yeah, man. But like I'm so at peace now with who I am and what I am that it's like I don't know why people are cutting me off. I don't know right? Like it's not my problem. Just keep going. Like you don't know why things happen to you. Just compartmentalize, know what you're in control of, and keep rolling. And that's how you're going to maximize your success. Having the health and that peace, that inner peace, you now can drive love forward, right? Like there's no more anger, there's no more resentment, there's no more hate, there's no this or that or judgments or any of that. It's just straight love. Like lead with love. And when you lead with love, you naturally attract people because love is natural. If you ask me the biggest thing I learned when I used to own Detroit Kid City, that was our coffee shop with the kids' play place. Here's what I learned. We had kids of all races, religions, faiths, all of it. They were all in there and they saw nothing but each other and all they wanted to do was play, right? But in the world, in real life, we're taught now to hate each other and draw all these lines and divisions and all this other crap. But naturally, at our core being, we're born with love. Yeah. And that's what we have in our DNA, everybody, everything, right? Like we lead with love. And when you're able to do those first three things, and then you add in travel, and yes, obviously I'm in the hospitality space, but I don't just mean travel, go have fun only. Go travel, see the world, see people, gain perspective, see culture, see food, see the way of life. Sure. See, when you cross a border in Mexico, what do you see? You see little 8-year-old kids that are selling things on the side of the street. Like this is the way of life for them. They're not victims. They get to do those things with their family, right? Like it's amazing. So when, that's what it is. But anyways, I bring all that up and I talk about all that and I pointed it to it because here you are so committed to your work and your business that you're pounding away on the laptop 6 hours before you're supposed to be prioritizing your health.
Sure.
And you got to commit to that if you don't commit to that before anything else, then everything else has a timeline. Because, I love when I hear from people, I got diagnosed with this and I got diagnosed with that. And they're 300 pounds overweight and they haven't moved a muscle in 16 years. And they're surprised that they got diagnosed with all these things. And it's like, really?
That's true.
How surprised are you for real?
Yeah, I can't believe this happened to me. Like, I can't.
Take
Sorry.
control. Take control of your own destiny. Not that I'm immune, by the way, not that I'm immune or that I'm perfect or any of those things.
No, not at all.
But I know that being, driving, not only
you have to take ownership.
Vehicle, but I'm driving the vehicle. I'm not in cruise control.
No, you have to take ownership in everything.
Yeah,
you have to take everything. You have ownership, man, is the key.
100%. Kent Clothier, what does he always say? He says there's only one way to coast, and it's downhill. And I'm not going downhill, brother. I'm not at least that I can control. If I can control that, I'm going to keep pedaling as long as I can.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So, all right, man. There was a lot of stuff going on here. We unpacked a lot of stuff, and I'm so looking forward to seeing you in 3 weeks now?
I think we'll be
3
out
weeks. I think we're going to Austin, Texas.
Austin, Texas in 3
We're gonna
weeks.
have some barbecue.
We're gonna do some things, I'm sure, and I'm getting. So here's where you call ultra everything, ultraing up and kind of leveling up is Brady's gonna be there. Okay, Brady's gonna be there, and I know he's gonna go want to run. It's gonna be hot and it's gonna be humid. You know what I've been doing? I've been running more.
Training.
I've been training. I've been training to be able to show up and be able to keep up.
That's awesome.
Isn't
I
that
love
crazy?
that.
Like
Yeah,
that's
but
what I'm doing.
That's what it does.
That's what I'm doing with the business. I'm training every single day. Like I'm gonna go out and do more deals. I'm gonna go out and do more, just so I can level up because I don't want to be the guy that I was 2 months ago. I want to be the next level person, right? So I've been training. I've been doing my push-ups every day. I've been running. I've been buying. I've been doing the stuff, like doing everything. So ultra up for sure. We're gonna take a commercial break, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. We're continuing this awesome conversation with Fouad. All right, man. I see a book behind you. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
I can. So this book is Hospitable Hosts. This is the second version, Hospitable Hosts 2. And I am on page, I want to say, yep. I am on page 175 of this book. And what this book is, it's a collaboration by many hosts in the short-term rental space.
Okay.
And, it's basically just our story. Each one of us got a chapter. There are 40 hosts in this book. And from all over the world, there's hosts in Australia, Europe, Asia, all over the world. And great people. I've gotten to network with them very closely. We've gotten to share ideas and strategize and talk big ideas and deals and all that other stuff. But this book it meant a lot to me because it was really just it was a culmination of, it's really easy. I say I've only been doing this for 20 months, right?
Yeah.
The truth is, it's a culmination of 18 years old, learning what I learned in finance school, and then getting my MBA and growing a pretty strong, growth through a corporate career. Whereas in 20 years, I was always the youngest guy in the room amongst peers. And, all those things, although they weren't related to this business, they all were my foundation and my learning lessons. And so when I was able to get into this, and people ask me all the time, how could you be so comfortable just going out and asking other people for money and raising capital from investors and doing all these things when you're just this, just starting? And the reality is, it's not that I'm just starting. I started a long time ago. I didn't know this is where the journey would take me, but I know this is where I am now. And it was a culmination of just a lot of hard work and whatnot. So it was really, really cool to be able to share this story. And I'd love for people to go out, buy this book. And by the way, I get $0 for any of these books that are sold. I'm not a revenue shareholder in this book.
Okay.
I was just a lucky individual that got to be partake in a really cool project. I just think it's really neat. And when you read it, it's not going to just talk about my homes. When you read it, it's about my mindset. It's about me wanting to help others understand that there's not only one way in life. It doesn't have to be a corporate direction. If it is, that's great, but it doesn't only have to be. And there's a path and there's a way for you to take control of your own time. And I challenge everybody and I urge everybody to start with the end in mind. Who are you going to be? Back into that and really
Sure.
figure out a way that you can take control of your own time.
Well, you had said something, and you said that you were lucky to be put in that book, and I think, man, that your hard work, and they have a saying that's the harder you work, the luckier you get, and I think that you deserve to be in that book because of the hard work that you put in. Yes, only 20 months in, and that's phenomenal, but everything that you've done to this point in your life has led to this position that you are, and so that hard work that you've put in your entire life has kind of formed that person. And to be listed in a book called Hospitable Hosts is amazing. So, so kudos to you and congratulations to all your success for sure, man. So super proud
Thank
of
you.
you.
Appreciate that.
You should be very proud of yourself, what you've accomplished.
And I am.
That's good. You know, it's funny. This morning I was on my run and it was talking about when you are confident.
Yep.
You're confident because of the things and the work and the things that you've put into what you've done, right? And to feel pride is not to be prideful, but to feel pride and raising your standards and becoming the person that you see. And you said that earlier, just saying, understand what your vision is of what you want to become or who you want to be and all this thing, and then back into it and start doing the steps in order to accomplish that. So if you want to be an ultra marathoner, well, you can't just think about it. You have to start by putting the work in. You got to start by getting off the couch and starting walk that first mile, and then you start running that first mile and moving forward. So if you want to do anything in this business, especially in Airbnb or in STRs, is first step, man, I would say get around people that are doing it. And that's going to lead me to my next thing is how do people find you? Because I think that's where these people that are out there listening today and say, hey, I want to start doing what Fouad's doing. And you know what? Connect. So how are we going to connect with you, man?
Yeah, so the best way, and I love this method, is for two reasons. Obviously, it grows my following, but if you connect with me on Instagram, it's my name, FOUAD BAZZI_Airbnb. It's the best way, and if you go right into my profile, you can click a link. You're more, I love scheduling time with people. I love connecting with new people all over the country. If there's any way I can help, I've got a calendar in there that you can kind of click on it and check it out. But otherwise, just check me out on Instagram. You'll see all about our business, all about our approach, and you'll get a lot of content.
Man,
and,
you have put some amazing content out. You're putting a lot of great information, great content.
Thank you.
Love watching it for sure. So
Thank you.
Definitely, we'll put the link up on the podcast here so people can connect to you. So with that said, we have a game for you, man. We're gonna play a game. We always do something. And last time we had Brady here, we did as many push-ups as we possibly could. We're gonna go easy on you today. So we're just gonna play a little game because I don't think unless you want to do push-ups on that desk behind you. Otherwise, we'll just play this game. So I think we're just going to play the game. So the rules of the game are very simple. We're going to throw a picture up on the screen, and you're going to tell us if you think they're from Albuquerque or somewhere else. And if you know where they're actually from originally, you're going to get extra points for that. And,
all right.
And if you have a bunch of points at the end, it gets you absolutely nothing.
Yes.
You win nothing.
What's the highest score so far on your show?
Whatever your score is going to be. Because we have a different challenge every single time.
No. I'm not competitive at all. I'm not competitive at all.
You're gonna be the winner. I'm gonna get you a medal. You're gonna get a medal. It'll be awesome. All right. Are we ready to play the game? All right. We're gonna throw a picture up on the screen, and we can get going now. All right. Any ideas?
Yes. Albuquerque.
Albuquerque. All right. 1.
Brooklyn, New York.
Brooklyn.
Yeah, man. That's where he was born.
All right.
Check it out.
So not Albuquerque.
Michael Jordan was born in Brooklyn, New York, February 17th, 1963. Come at me, bro.
Okay. Next one.
I feel like this is a trick question.
Could be.
Albuquerque.
Seattle.
All right.
All right, next one. Ooh.
Albuquerque, for sure.
Los Angeles. All right.
I don't know, but not Albuquerque.
Albuquerque. All right.
Albuquerque, for sure.
Albuquerque for sure. You got that one. All right.
Ronnie Lott, Oakland, California.
Albuquerque.
All right. Wow.
Okay.
Not Albuquerque. I don't know where from. Not Albuquerque.
Los Angeles. All right.
All right. Not Albuquerque.
Not Albuquerque. Albuquerque.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
Not Albuquerque.
Seattle, you were right. Now, we don't have the bonus round, but I want to put, if you can envision Jeff Bezos. Albuquerque or not Albuquerque?
Albuquerque.
Albuquerque. Yep. Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Isn't that crazy?
That's a stellar lineup, man. I mean, that's awesome.
they all have, yeah. Albuquerque's crazy, man. If
They're
you
all
haven't been
motivated
here-
to get out of Albuquerque.
We're gonna no, not at all. You need to come out here. I want you to come out and visit New Mexico. We'll take you to some cool places over here. New
I
Mexico's
can't wait.
amazing.
Honestly, I cannot wait. It's high on the bucket list.
I love New Mexico, and I will take you to the top of the Sandia Mountains. So I need you to start training because we're going to run the La Luz Trail.
Let's do it.
It's a 15-mile loop. It'll take us probably 4 or 5 hours.
That'd be amazing. No, we're not going to run into any snakes on the way, are we?
We probably will not run it. We might, but mountain lions maybe. I mean, that doesn't
Cool.
scare you, right? Mountain lions?
Oh, I guess not. Should it?
Should it? Yeah, it should. They're horrible animals. They're beautiful, majestic, and they will tear you up.
And you just run right past them?
No, you don't see them, man. You'll never see them. You'll feel them. I actually, it was funny because, kind of finished with this, but I was running by my house, and one morning it was like 4:30 in the morning, and I felt like this weird. It felt just weird. The spidey senses were tingling, and so I run, and I kind of like keep looking around. So I go about it. I finish my run. Later on, my wife calls and tells me, she's like, hey, they shut the school down because they had a lockdown because our kids' elementary school is right by this field. There was a mountain lion in the field, and they found it that day. So that morning I was running, and I think this mountain lion was scoping me out, man. They're like, should I eat him? So yeah, you never know.
He's a little big. He's not. That's awesome.
You never know. That's the first and only time I've heard of a mountain lion in the North Valley where I live. We've heard of bobcats and stuff like that, but a mountain lion, yeah. So they're legit. So
Wow.
don't go pet one if you see one.
All right.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the time today, man. It was so awesome talking to you. I can't wait to see you in a couple weeks here in Austin, and we're gonna do big things. Big things, man.
Thank you for having me. So much love for you and your family, your awesome daughter, your awesome wife. Really appreciate you, my man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. And you know what we want you to do is you got to ultra up, man. Ultra up.
Health, peace, love, and travel.
All right, let's do it. Later. Thanks, man.
See ya. Bye.
All right, guys. I am talking to you specifically. If you are someone that is doing things to the ultra level, I want to talk to you. If you know of somebody that's doing things to the ultra level, I want to talk to them. So comment below, tag them on here, give us a call, hit us up on social media, DM us, whatever you got to do to get your information to us, because we want to talk to you, because we are interested in definitely learning more about what you're doing in your community and the people that you inspire around you. So definitely ultra up and give us a call.